Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, or team up against a guest and battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Hello, people. We are back for another spoiler special. Our first spoiler special after my sick break and holiday break. Got COVID, sorry. What can I do? Not a lot. Other than just drink horrible Lemsip and just slowly think you're dying and like, oh no, I'm fine now. But yeah, so we're back now. Rambling, I know. Sorry. Yes, this podcast is about Don't Worry Darling, a spoiler special. So obviously, if you haven't watched this film, stop listening to this, go watch the movie, then come back and listen to this, which is kind of what you should be doing anyway for this podcast. The normal episodes.
Yeah, literally every single episode we do. I mean, you know.
And of course, I'm joined by a man who can't wait for his introduction, as always, but he is also known as the architect of the virtual reality experience. Boaz Dix, how are you, sir? Hopefully he'll sound better than the guy from The Matrix.
Yes, Martin.
You all right then?
Yeah.
Cool. So, Don't Worry, Darling. I mean, as you're probably all very aware, this film has had a lot of stories about the making of it. We're not really going to go into that because I don't really care much about that.
You're not a gossip. You're not a 30-year-old woman or something into Real Housewives and all that jazz. My mum would love the gossip. She'd fucking love it.
Really?
I need to talk to her about just the gossip. I think she'd fucking adore that.
And I think it's just a bit irritating because it's a female director as well. I just think it's totally unfair. But anyway, we ain't talking about that shit. We're talking about the movie Don't Worry, Darling. Darling, don't worry, darling. Did you ever watch, what's it called? Blackadder goes for.
Oh, yeah.
One of the generals is called Captain Darling.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Or, Captain. Stephen Fry is always like, what do you think, darling? And it's all about like really important military plans and stuff.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of that.
Yeah, that was a great series.
Bit. Anyway, so this film, Don't Worry Darling, Boaz, what did you make of it?
I think my general opinions is I thought most of it was okay. I think actually what the bit I take issue with is the twist. That is seriously the only thing I kind of don't like.
So we should explain, this film is about Florence Pugh's character, Alice, and Jack's character, Harry Styles, who are a couple. They're living in this very utopia-type 1950s town called Victory, and it's kind of a project run by Chris Pine's character, Frank. It's very much a typical lifestyle of that time. Like, the husbands go off to work, doing this experimental secret operation.
Yeah, the wives cannot ask them about it.
Yeah, and the wives just do the cleaning, the cooking, and weird shit. Basically happens very early on, to be honest. And I think that's kind of one of my issues with the film, is that a lot of the weird stuff happens quite early. There's not a lot of like normal drama, if you will, like to get you invested into the story. Like a lot of the weird stuff happens, I don't know, like a good less than 20 minutes in, when like Florence Pugh is looking at Margaret's character and she's looking a bit dodge and refusing pills and stuff, and then literally a few minutes later she's like squishing eggs that's got no yolk in it when she's cooking. So it's fairly obvious that something dodgy is going on very early on in the movie, and there's just not enough time to get you invested into what's happening. And then it's kind of revealed that it was all a VR experience, well, a VR simulation, a VR reality, virtual reality simulation that Jack has put Alice into without her knowledge, without consent. Yeah, I mean, what do you make of that one? Not a big fan.
I like the message and like and how it was handled and all that sort of stuff. I do sort of get it. I just wasn't a fan of it being a virtual reality. I would much preferred if it was real. If like they had been taken to, the Victory Project and da. And I suppose because it leaves you on your toes for a very long time as to what the hell is going on. It's really late in the film where she kind of works this out. I think my mind was racing on like alternate theories. I think that's always sometimes the problem with mysteries. If you make them like way too mysterious and you kind of stretch it out, it's just one of those things. Like I'm always going to come up with wild theories in my brain to sort of explain this. So I was thinking all kinds of weird shit. I thought maybe these women were kidnapped. Maybe Chris Pine was the devil. Maybe they were mining some sort of female mind control drug.
Mithril.
That's what the Victory Project was.
Watching a lot of Rings of Power.
Yeah, so I was thinking about like a ton of different things, and maybe I was even thinking, I don't know, maybe the twist is going to be even more insane than I can imagine. And then, and it's kind of unfair to it to just like compare it to the Matrix, but like, the twist is it's a simulation like the Matrix, and
you're like, oh, okay, fair enough.
it kind of deflates it. It's like it makes sense of everything. Where you're like, oh shit, her hallucinations weren't hallucinations, like they're glitches. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. But it kind of deflated me a bit. Where I'm like, oh, okay, that's the explanation.
Yeah, I guess for me, I didn't really guess what it was. I thought there must have been some sort of Matrix-y type thing going on. I thought it was kind of more like, I don't know, hallucination type thing.
Yeah, so did I. I thought it was
like a drug experiment or something.
Yeah, like they gave her like tons of LSD and strapped her to a bed or something.
Yeah, it's a really interesting idea, but I did feel like this sort of thing has been done better, like fairly recently with things like WandaVision. Yes, I know that's a TV series, but still, I think timing-wise, it's not great for this film.
Yeah.
But I do respect like the real-world aspect of it, because I can see this happening in the real world, because it's very much presented as like an illegal thing. This is not a legal program, I don't think. This is very cultist, I would say. You definitely get that from Chris Pine's character. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a big VR gamer, but I quite enjoy VR games. I've got a Quest 2 Oculus at home. That's a lot of fun. So I can see this kind of happening in the real world. So I do quite like the fact that Olivia Wilde kind of chose a answer that is fairly realistic, that could be tangibly possible. So,
well, I mean, even when you see what it's like on the outside, it does look something like that could be done with contemporary technology. It does look like something, and less fantastical, even though the idea seems pretty out there. But it does look, very modern tech.
I'm not sure how that would work though, because you've got to keep your eyes wide open the whole time.
Well, I thought he jammed these things up her eyes, didn't he? Like these little square things that kind of kept her eyes open. And it looks like a mix of, some sort of hypnosis, drugs, and
she does have a drip. Yeah,
some sort of electronic interface or something. I don't know. It's probably a bunch of crap, but it looked like there were quite a few things happening to her to get her into the experience. So I don't really have a problem with like how it was presented, and I do kind of like the general idea, because it's also strange for a film, because up until the twist, well, when she realizes something's wrong, she's never actually unhappy with the life here. So I think that's a really unique way to put it. It's not so much that she feels she's being oppressed, like in this kind of life that has been chosen for her, a housewife's life, a traditional housewife's life, and she seems fairly happy. She has very few responsibilities other than cooking and cleaning.
That's the the kind of the manipulation that's going on with the men putting their wives unknowingly into the simulation, you know.
Yeah, and they basically they change their history as well.
Yeah.
You know, because they talk about, like, you know, where they were from, where they were raised, how they met. That's all manufactured, so her memories have been tampered with. But it's generally, I think the idea is not so much that if this would be a nice way to live with zero responsibilities, the fact that she has no responsibilities and her right to choose has been taken away. Like, she should have the right to choose whether she wants to live like this, you know, and that was taken from her. You know, and generally, even when he was saying, like, you know, I did this for you, you were working yourself to the bone. It's like, yeah, I was, but I fucking enjoyed my work, and you're like,
yeah,
you know, you have no right.
I think that's one of my issues with the film is the fact that you don't see much of the real world. And I think the reveal that Jack had forced Alice into this simulation without her knowledge would have worked better if we actually saw it more and actually physically saw maybe Jack put her in there. And just found out more about their relationship in this world. You know, all we really get is, yeah, life's tough working in the health industry.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. And yeah, so there's not a lot there.
I think maybe I would have warmed to the twist if maybe, and this sounds crazy, but if they had done it a lot earlier, because again, I think it's just a problem with coming up with a big twist towards the end. And as I said, you do all this weird crap, and they do a lot of weird crap, which I really liked. I like the fact she's tripping balls. I liked all the scenes where she's, you know, reality is essentially escaping out from her. But as I said, you know, the longer you string me along, the more I'm going to come up with some outlandish ideas. And then, as I said, I wasn't really satisfied with what the explanation is. And I think you're right. It's like, you could see a little more of what was actually happening behind the scenes, but you really don't. And I think it's because it's introduced so late in the game. Like, it's before she, like, realizes, then you get a flashback to what the world was like before, and then she's out of there. You know, she, you know, stabs him and then, like, runs like hell. So, you know, you don't even really see her wake up. I'm not sure if I would... That's a weird one. I'm not sure how that sat with me. That you did. It felt like unfinished. You know, that I know it's a simple thing just to see her wake up, but you know,
at the end, because I've seen it twice now, and she does, when she gets up to the top of the hill and like puts her hands on the glass, she does the gas thing.
Yeah, she does again.
But into cut, she's like dancing with really quick shots. She's dancing in the real world, just being relieved, I guess. But
oh shit, I forgot that bit. Yeah.
So she does escape, but it does feel like, you know, there's no resolution in this film. There's no like realization moment for Alice, like, oh yeah, I'm back in the real world. You know, after that dance, it would have been nice to see that, and actually maybe her seeing Jack dead on the bed, because again, like, they introduced annoyingly very late in the day.
Yeah, very late.
If you die in the simulation, you die in the real world too.
Yeah.
So, again, I think you're right. I feel like Olivia Wilde didn't really know how to end this film. Yes, it's kind of an ambiguous ending, but I don't think the ambiguity works here, and I don't think it's needed here, especially when when the ending is kind of not, when the twist is not particularly very satisfying, when it's kind of like a lot of boxes, like, you know, oh, okay, some weird shit's going on in this world. Okay, what kind of thing is it going to be? Is it going to be like Stepford Wives, Matrix, or whatever? Oh, it's this box, you know?
Yeah.
So there needed to be more depth there. And I kind of would have wanted to see a lot more of the real world, but like have it a hell of a lot earlier in this film, maybe having like dual stories.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting. Like, it's like one of those hidden twists where you're not really sure. So what that reminds me of, which is very different, but still had the same thing, and it made the twist, I think, like punch a lot harder. Have you watched Memento?
Oh yeah,
I fucking love, and the fact that they're doing basically two timelines in Memento, where it's like, you know, you see him in white and grey, and there's this other timeline going on, and then you have the film spliced in with that, and then the twist that the other timeline, you know, is like way back. Do you know what I mean? And it's like the conclusion of that, just like, oh my god, oh yeah, that
Yeah.
it was a flashback, and it completely changes the entire film, and it makes you want to watch it again because you didn't really understand that this was like that this flashback was really important, and it like
Yeah.
undermined everything that was going on in the main film. They could have done that, where
Yeah.
you're having these flashbacks to the real world and you don't really understand like what the context is,
Yeah.
and maybe those
Yeah.
flashbacks lead to she gets put into the dream world, and then you're like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah, I feel like, when you've got weird shit like this, weird mysteries, that like not enough filmmakers just don't have the confidence in doing stuff like what Chris Nolan is doing. Like, no, do it,
Yeah.
convince your money people to like, yes, this will work. Trust us.
Yeah, I think the great thing with Chris Nolan is he doesn't pigeonhole himself into one way of doing it. He's just like, I'm going to be as experimental as hell. So it's like it takes you a while to untangle what you've just watched, and and I think that's kind of lacking here. Like it is pretty basic, especially as I said, you're like, I don't know what the hell's going on, and then at the end, oh, that's cleared up, but now I've still got like a bunch of questions that aren't answered, and then it finishes.
Yeah. And even with, I think if you even had more modern day stuff, it would work. It would make like the 1950s stuff work better because you would have more of a contrast, between the worlds.
Yeah, definitely.
And more of a contrast between their relationship as well, because that's what the film is kind of very much focusing on.
So, good things I like. Florence Pugh's performance is great. It's just really, really good. And I do like, as I said, like, I think I even audibly said to you, where she's doing this one bit where she's cleaning, and I loved that visual, and the wall just like is crushing her against the window that she's cleaning.
Great sound effects as well.
And I think I turned to you and I was like, "What the fuck is happening?" And I love that feeling of just like, oh my, it feels like I'm losing my mind along with her. And I thought that was a really there are some really impressive visuals of when she's like losing it. I liked also after the other friend of hers like slit her throat, and she's doing ballet, and then she's the only one that sees her like banging her head through the mirror.
Yeah.
That was creepy. I like that. So there's quite a lot of like visuals I really liked, and I liked Chris Pine's character as well.
Yeah, I did like the kind of the trippiness of Florence Pugh's visions or dreams, or however you want to call it, when like the chorus girls are like doing the can thing. I don't know what it's called. But then there's little shots where their makeup changes to all like this blocky white makeup to make them look like zombie-ish in real flashes. That was really nice.
Oh yeah, that was really good. Oh, and how they look like an eye. So you remember it was like, because I think it's the first time she touches when she touches the main frame or whatever, that's a way for her to log out. So she must have actually logged out and then been logged back in. And the visuals of like being logged out are really awesome. I like that, where it was like, what was it? You had like an iris contracting, but
like all the way to like nothing.
yeah, all the way to the edge, until there was nothing but iris. That was awesome. And then that turning into the ladies doing like a can dance, and their legs like looking like an eye. They're all in the. That was awesome.
It's all symbolism, man.
Yeah. There was a lot of really trippy stuff. Another one I liked, do you remember that bit where she's drowning and the water is like, no, the air bubbles are going into her mouth?
There's a lot of reverse slow-mo going on.
That was a really good use of reverse slow-mo, especially the noises. And how she's acting, it does feel like it's being forced into her mouth rather than she is letting out air. I do love the trippy visuals in this.
I think one of my favorite like trippy scenes was kind of a scene where they kind of nick from Last Night in Soho, but I still quite liked it, where like Florence Pugh is in the bath, and when she goes underwater, her reflection stays there. I don't know if you noticed that. That was fun.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah, I remember that.
Bit of a rip-off, but yeah I like it.
Yeah, although it is a great visual, and I loved it in... I think we should have done one about Last Night in Soho, because I really like that film.
I think, One other issue I have, I know there's a lot of issues going around in this chat, but
Yeah.
you know, it's a very flawed film, I think. But
Yeah,
I
I do think
like
so.
the idea of it. I really like the boldness of it, and you kind of grounding it in reality as well. But I just don't buy that this 1950s America in California is the most desirable place to live your life in virtual reality.
No.
You know, I think they choose it because it's the most desirable for married couples in history. But I feel like the Old West, or maybe the 1920s America, like Boomtown America, just before the Depression, feel more desirable for men, for this kind of like suppressed wives type critique would have worked a little bit better maybe in the 20s, or just even just like a sci-fi world. I don't know. It's just I don't see the desirability of the 1950s for me. As maybe that's just a personal thing for me, but do you get that? Or
I think that might be a personal thing, because I'm not really adverse to the 1950s. Yeah, but fair enough.
But it's interesting as well, like in the end you're told that some people, like, was it Olivia Wilde's character Penny, I think she's called, Bunny. Yeah, Bunny.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she is aware of this, of being in the simulation, whereas most of the other wives aren't.
Yeah.
And it doesn't particularly add up for me. You know, if you were signing on for a virtual reality simulation, I would want to be able to have a really good time without too many rules. And it seems like this whole project is all about order and progress and structure, and having to be careful that some of the other wives don't know what's going on just doesn't add up to me. That, like, you know, why would you want to enter this reality in the first place if you have to keep a lot of secrets around people?
Yeah, I thought this was kind of explained, because didn't she say, like, her kids exist in this virtual world? So I think but
they're not real, though, are they?
Yeah, but I think it's the fact that, again, I might be reading too much in it, but I thought this was explained that her real children are dead. So
okay.
Yeah, I don't know if she actually says that. I'm gonna have to rewatch it, but I was under the impression her real children are dead. So this is like her escape to
okay,
to like live with her children.
Again, it feels like a One Division rip-off, but which is unfortunate.
Yeah. So I think the problem with that, again, I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that happened. That said, I think that reveal happened almost immediately after she killed her husband and started running. So I think there's a lot that they just kind of dump on you from that moment. Because as I said, it's literally only like you've got 15 minutes left of the film after it's revealed what the fuck's going on. So, and then she's got to get out of there. Yeah, it's an info dump. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people didn't like get everything. But also, another problem that I have is it doesn't really establish some of the rules. So I'm not entirely sure who the red shirt people are, because the red shirt people take all the evidence and stuff. Are they real people, or are they like the agents from the Matrix? Like, because that's the one thing I was thinking. I was like, okay, this is the Matrix. Are the red people agents?
Or are they just or is this just a job for them in this virtual reality thing? Are they just are they getting paid, or is it are they just AIs? You know.
Oh, and here's another thing that was a problem, because again, it was like an info dump last 15 minutes. Chris Pine's wife just fucking stabs him out of nowhere. And then she's like, I'll take over now. I was like, what the hell? I was like, where's this coming from?
Yeah. Because she's not specifically told that she's in a simulation.
Well, it's the thing. Yeah, exactly.
All she knows is that Florence Pugh is going to escape victory, in air quotes. For all she knows, she's just going to headquarters that is not allowed.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, I don't like that. I'm going to stab you in the stomach and twist it and make you bleed out.
I was actually quite confused about that. So it's one of those things, like, that's the sort of thing you would see for like sequel bait, but the ending of this doesn't warrant a sequel. So I was really confused. I was like, is she freeing all the ladies? Did she work this out? Is she trying to like be like, no, it's my turn to be like even worse than you? Or or as you said, does she not know what's going on and then just out of nowhere stabbed him? I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. I mean, I did, up until that point, I really did like Gemma Chan, though, as the wife of Chris Pine. I think a little underused.
I would have spaced out these twists, I think. I think that would have helped. Like, you establish that it's not real a lot later. Then maybe you establish, as I said, if Bunny is in on it, but she has a good reason, you establish that a little later. And then if the other Chris Pine's wife is going to go nuts, you establish that a little later. And then actually, like, explain why. Then you get to the end. I do feel like it tries to, like, keep you in this. I've said this before. I've said this so many times, but keeps you in suspense for like 2 hours, and then in the last 15 minutes dumps a ton of shit on you, and then ends, and you're like, wow, that's like. Yeah,
I think arguably my favorite performance would be from Chris Pine, though, as the cult leader of this.
Yeah, he was great. I really liked
Project Victory is amazing. It's like he's in an Armani or Hugo Boss advert the whole time.
Yeah,
oozing sophistication. The scene where he just watches Florence Pugh and Harry Styles have sex in his own house is very weird.
Yeah, that was cool.
And unsettling. And also like when Alice is throwing all these theories at him and accusations at Chris Pine, he always seems to have an answer for it, and he seems to be in control all the time.
Yeah,
until he gets stabbed.
Yeah,
I think he's brilliant.
I really liked. So the scene just before she starts, like they start doing a verbal, fight with each other, verbal sparring match in front of everyone. I liked when he meets her in the kitchen. I thought that was pretty intense. I liked that. I thought that was good because. You're like, he's smiling, he's just staring at her. You're like, there's something not right about this, but he's trying to appear friendly. And he just arrives in there, so she's cooking and stuff and chopping the carrots. And then it's just like, it's not subtle at all. And I thought that was great. How he just because like those scenes in films where they go, I know what you did. And then you're like, really? And then they say something like, oh, you drank a lot of Coca-Cola, or you stole my Coca-Cola. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of twist where, oh, they're onto me. Oh no, thank God they're not onto me. And I'm really tired of that trope. And I'm like, finally, you have a film where the bad guy is like, listen, I'm onto you. And then she's like, I don't know what you mean. And then he fucking spells it out. He's like, listen, I know. I really do know. But then I thought, man, this is like game over for her. And then I just like how he's like, I actually enjoy the challenge,
Yeah.
So keep digging. I'm not going to stop you. And I was like, oh man, that is so cool. Yeah. So I really like that scene. I thought, that's the one bit which I thought is so uncliche that it was quite a welcome surprise. I'm like, more films should do that.
Yeah, it definitely really works really well for his character. Like he's seeing Florence Pugh like figuring stuff out that this world isn't real, and he's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna see this as a challenge, and builds upon his ego, and it just makes his like misogyny even worse, and it's just like, fucking hell, this is brilliant.
Yeah, because I even like that, like everything he says, he's got, as you said, he's got an answer for, and she's pointing out other problems and all this other stuff, and he's still got an answer for it. And then I like, after all that, like she's thoroughly embarrassed, and his wife goes on at her, and everybody's against her. And how Chris Pine just like looks at her and is like, I'm disappointed. I don't think he's disappointed that she would bring this up at the table, but that she hasn't solved it. She still doesn't know what the fuck's going on. I quite like that.
Because in his mind, he knows he can control everything. Yeah. So... Because even if Florence Pugh works it out and literally tells the truth to everyone, he can just reset everyone's mind.
Oh yeah, he'll have her. That's what happens even towards the end. Like she doesn't work everything out, but she decides to leave and tries to convince Harry Styles to come with her. And
a pretty naff and dumb car chase, I must say. I'm just like, come on, people, what are you doing? I just, why is the car chase in here? It's not an action film. That was just stupid for me.
Yeah, no, I know, that was quite surreal. Yeah, I think, I think they were just full blown Matrix at the end. And the car crashes as well. Yeah, that was kind of out there. You remember when? Because they've got the doctor is even in the car chasing her
and going the other way. What?
Yeah,
like, oh my god, it's stupid. It's so dumb.
Yeah, I think they went to like the Benny Hill School for Driving. But do you remember that? Like, they're trying to crush her, and he's coming the other way. Like, actually, that's one thing I don't get. Wouldn't he kill himself? Because he's going to go full on into her car. The fact that he doesn't go into her car because she brakes, and he goes into the other two cars, he was still going to land in her car, right? Yeah. He should have surely died. Yeah, I don't think the action scene was particularly well choreographed, but I don't think, this is an action director. I don't think it required an action scene. I do like, as I said, like the psychological stuff. I think that was really well done. And I think maybe it should have just stayed that way. And as I said, I'm not a fan of the twist and like how late everything gets revealed. I think that's way too late in a film to sort of...
So certainly for me, I would definitely want a lot more modern stuff.
Yeah.
To just make the relationship work more in the 50s, and then everything else will kind of have more depth throughout the film. Yeah, so I definitely really, really admire what this film was going for. I think it just misfires a bit at the end, which is a shame. And hopefully this doesn't impact Olivia Wilde's career, because it's well known that a lot of female directors, if they fail at the box office or fail critically, like they go into Hollywood jail. And hopefully this doesn't happen with Olivia Wilde, because Booksmart was really awesome. So hopefully she can definitely get another film made. The only other thing I would like to mention is just like Florence Pugh's performance. Well, two actually, when Harry Styles is kind of like going down on Florence Pugh, like on the dinner table, and she's like, "I must push off all the plates on the table." Every single one. But the meat in the middle, no, that's got to stay there. It's fine.
Yes, it's symbolism. Yeah, she likes the meat.
Yes. And also when she's just preparing dinner again, then just randomly puts cling film around her head.
Oh yeah, I actually quite like that.
I'm like, oh, okay, she's going a bit nuts here.
Yeah.
I guess it's saran wrap for you Americans, but for us it's like cling film.
Yeah.
Bit of random fact there for you.
Yeah, I thought that was really good.
I mean, what do we make of Harry Styles then? I mean, is he a good actor for you? Is he good in this? Or is he pretty bad?
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like that's also another thing for me, like in the film, that this film is certainly about like female repression and male misogyny and the wives unknowingly being controlled in this world. But I didn't feel like Harry Styles is much of a macho misogynistic guy. So
not really.
He felt very weedy and weak as a male character in this world, even in the real world as well. So I don't know whether he's a bit miscast or whether they kind of cast him to make Chris Pine the dude, the guy that's all overseeing misogynistic bastard, for this film. That like the dance at the club,
that was surreal,
ironically called the Dollhouse Club.
Yeah.
But the dance was a bit, I don't know.
It was weird.
Odd to me. I'm not sure that entirely worked.
Yeah. I would actually say, like, despite all the very strange visual chaos that Florence Pugh goes through, I think the weirdest fucking thing in the film was his dance. It's got to be the dance. It's weirder than the clean film. It's weirder than the eggs. It's weirder than, being under a tub. It's weirder than the glass wall thing. It is just very weird. Like, what was going on there?
There's a lot of takes where he just feels like it looks like he's just very expressionless doing the dance. And there's only a few shots where he looks happy doing it, like celebrating. Yes, there is kind of a bit of like taking the mick aspect of it, because it's very ceremonial kind of thing. Like you have to do some weird shit to get into a club or whatever. But yeah, it's just, I'm not sure the casting was quite right here.
I would say also, like, when he gets into a few arguments with Florence Pugh, where he's like, stop it, to Florence and stuff, and they're shouting at each other. Like, I think it's those scenes in particular that, I think that happened like two or three times, where I'm like, she is acting circles around you. Like, it doesn't, because like to do a screaming match and do some, an emotional display of anger, that requires quite a a good amount of acting. Do you know what I mean? And she was on a higher caliber than he was, so it kind of does like point out that she is a better actress than he is.
Yeah. Yeah, she is running rings around him at times.
She is running rings around him, yeah.
Just like, please act better in the scene. God damn it.
And I think that's kind of a shame. So maybe it's in some bits like she's acting too good, that she's making him look bad. If she like toned it down a bit, then I don't think you would really notice like the difference in experience. But yeah, she acts rings around him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is one thing I don't think is ever explained. Like, why is it that every couple of minutes or whatever in the Victory Project, do you remember they made a big deal out of this in one scene? They're all talking, and then suddenly, like, there's a fucking earthquake, like everything's shaking.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I think this happens a few times. Like, they're doing whatever, and then just everything shakes.
It must be just like a software update or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I was like, they never explained that. I was like, what is going on there?
Mm. Yeah, it doesn't come to anything, does it?
No, it doesn't. Like, there's no big reveal about it. It's just like a quirk of the town. But then, knowing it's a computer simulation, you're like, I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, what was the point of the earthquakes in the town? I'm like, I just don't get that.
I guess it was because they were just trying to make an excuse for the wives. I think Bunny says old boys with their toys.
Oh, actually, do you know how you could have explained it better? How about this? Like, so you have the earthquake stuff, and then say you have, because you were saying the idea of having like her past self, like before she was put in, have that like interspliced in the film, and have it maybe that they argue that they live quite close to a train station because it's cheap. And that, it shakes the room because they...
to connect the two things.
And then it's kind of a subliminal thing of like...
Two stories.
Yeah, two stories. And you're like, maybe they live next to a train station or they live above an airport because it's really cheap because they're poor. And so it shakes their house. And then you can, move that bit in because you're like, oh my God, I think that would have hit hard. Because it's like, of course, it's a simulation. And, the earthquakes are explained because of like... outside rumbles from like outside. Maybe they were actually planning something like that. I'm just making shit up, and I don't know, just didn't do it. But that was kind of weird. That the earthquakes led to nothing. I thought that was kind of bizarre.
I think it was definitely one of those like trippy moments that seemed realistic in that world.
Yeah,
but I think that's what they were going for. So I think we'll leave it there, people. For Don't Worry, Darling. Yes, we were supposed to do an episode on Florence Pugh films, based on this one, but obviously I was ill. But I definitely want to do one later in the year. Florence Pugh is a very big actress. She's very busy, so hopefully we'll do a podcast on her films further down the line next year, probably. It will be next year. So stay tuned for that one, hopefully. Right, Boaz, you can go back to your coding and create a new world for us.
Yep.
Unknowingly.
Exactly.
Bye-bye.
I've got my girlfriend, or some girl, strapped to the bed. Not pervert. She's connected to the computer.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Anyway. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Police are here.
Ding dong. Bye. That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell us what your favourite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for Twitter at FVF_podcast. If you do, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. If you're feeling really generous, you can buy us a one-off coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee account. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off.